heart like an abandoned car, old and worn and no use at all. But I used to be free. Well, we could talk about the weather, but let's talk song. First video, first lesson, first song. Biffy Clyro's Black Chandelier turns 10 years in 2023. It was released in January of 2013. And not only is it one of my favorite songs of one of my favorite bands, but also it's great in terms of songwriting. And it serves as a great starting point for everything we are going to learn and enjoy in the course of this YouTube adventure that I'm starting. Without further ado, let's look at the intro, which is exactly one chord. One chord for the intro, which is this one. It's an E major. Actually, what I'm doing here is I'm playing E major 7 sus2, which gives it floatiness that I believe is there in the arrangement as well. The song is in B major. So E serves as the 4th degree chord and starts with a really floaty vibe. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, there is a songwriting course coming up this year. For now, let's just say 4th degree chord, floaty vibe. This is E major, and this E major doesn't even come up in the first couple of bars because we've got this drip, 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 drip for, I'd say, 4 bars, something like this. And the same thing repeats with E major as the chord. What's really interesting about it is the rhythmic placements of the drip. I think it took me like 2 years to actually get the instinct out of my head that the first drip is the 1, because it isn't. It's the 2. So my beginner's mistake was the interpretation to say drip, 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 drip. I'm showing you the misinterpreted rhythmic notation and the correct one, because the actual rhythm is starting on the 2, which is totally out of context because you have got no instrumentation to back that up. Only once the instruments start, you have got certainty, or confusion at first, but then certainty that it's actually the beginning on the 2. Quite interesting, especially for a single for an album that was on the radio. Now, ain't that confusing? Basically, the intro is just that. One chord, and one more thing. If we talk song, we don't talk arrangement and production, okay? So it's one chord and the drip things. Song meaning chords, words, and melody. For the verse, it's pretty interesting already with the first chord, because the first chord is this one. And this is a B major, so the tonic chord, which is totally okay, but with 3 in bass, with D sharp in bass. Now, ain't that interesting? The second chord is G sharp minor. The third chord is F sharp with 3 in bass once again, with A sharp in bass. The fourth chord is B major regular. I'm playing it in inversion, but never mind. B major regular with the actual B in bass, and then we've got the E major from the intro once again. Now, I had no idea where those strange bass movements came from. Then I saw Simon Neil play the song on an acoustic guitar. And suddenly everything becomes clear. He plays it not in B major, but in, I don't really remember. Anyway, it comes from guitar voicings. And the bass player obviously took the ideas and created a beautiful bass line with it, which is this one. And this in itself is a really cool melody. This chord progression, which is kind of unusual, repeats 4 times. One additional interesting element is harmonic rhythm. we've got the so-called BJ, the Bon Jovi. If you have no idea what it is, you have to buy the course, I'm sorry. Or I'm just giving away one of the most important takeaways for the songwriting course right now. The BJ is a Bon Jovi-esque harmonic rhythm, which you can find in a lot of Bon Jovi songs, actually. It's first chord on the 1 of the beat and second chord on the 2 end of the beat. So it's anticipating the 3. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. The E is anticipated as well. So we've got 2 regular hits, which are the B with D sharp and bass, and the F sharp with A sharp and bass. But the rest is anticipated. So we've got 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And a really lengthy second half of this chord progression because you have no movement whatsoever and one tiny bit of arrangement and production note here. There is no guitar line playing and the vocals don't do anything there either. It's kind of weird, but if you think about it, I don't know, maybe floaty vibe, maybe floaty chord. Let's look at the melody, and for that we also need the keyboard. The melody, and I'm just going to play along, is this. I should've loved, but I know I'm a failure in your eyes. Lengthy break, lengthy rest. I know it's tough, but I guess I know it deep inside. It's melody-wise, it's I should've laughed, but I know I'm a failure in your eyes. 2-note melody. C sharp is the more prominent note, which is kind of weird because it's the second note in the scale, right? In the B major scale. So it's when we look at the B major chord, when we also look at the G sharp minor chord, it's not even the chord, and still it's the melody on top of the chords, which creates a quite nice friction and feeling. I already mentioned that the melody covers pretty much a lot of the first 2 bars and then has a very lengthy rest of 2 bars. And this rest also kind of coincides with the E major. If I were to bring this to the studio, a person producing this would probably remark on that and say we need guitar line, we need words, or we need chord changes in the second half of this chord progression because it's rather empty. Simon, if you're watching this, why not just change the song after 10 years of successful playing? What's important for later is the fact that the melody starts on the 1 of beat 1. I should've laughed, but I know I'm a failure in your eyes. I know it's tough, but I guess I know it deep inside. Because this is something that will change in the course of the different parts of the song, which is something that we have observed in the songwriting course. Apparently it's a thing. To start your melodies on different beats depending on the section you're in. So we've got starting on the beat, starting on the first beat of the bar, already covered in the verse. We are going to look at the lyrics later. We are now going to go to the transitional bridge, which is, in terms of chord progression, my favorite bit. We start with a G sharp minor. So far, so good. Now the next one is already a pain in the ass. What is that? It's G augmented? It's E flat augmented? I have no idea what it is. It makes sense if we look at the chord after it. This is the chord after it, which is B major with F sharp and bass, with 5 in bass. And the 4th chord is this one. Depending on the voicing, you could also want to play it like this. So this could be perhaps F, sharp 11, augmented. If we want to analyze those chords, we go crazy, unless we understand where they come from. They come from the chromatic bass line. And the chromatic bass line, a thing that you find in a lot of pop songs and that kind of challenge the chord functions as we know them, is amazing sound-wise and basically unanalyzable analysis-wise. What's great about it is that you can repeat it over and over, right? Which they don't do, I'm just realizing. Left my heart like an abandoned car, old and worn and no use at all, but I used to be free. So we've got again, the second half of the T bridge is just one chord. It's the E major again. And of course, E in bass makes a lot of sense when you come from F in bass, which, depending on the interpretation, could have been an E sharp, but I'm not going to go into this. E in bass coming from the chromatic line starting on the G sharp. Now, ain't that amazing? Melody-wise, again, we haven't got a lot of movement. You left my heart like an abandoned car, old and worn and no use at all, but I used to be free. So we haven't got a lot of range. It's just a fourth of range. But with the chromatic movement in the chords, it makes a great build-up for what's next, the chorus. And by the way, transitional bridge started with pickup. You left my heart like an abandoned car. Just a nice observation. Starting verse on the 1 of the beat, starting the transitional bridge with a pickup. You left my heart like an abandoned car. And as I said, we are going to look at the lyrics later. Now for the chorus. Chorus is, if we look at the chords first, something that we know already. B major with D sharp in bass. Oh, there's something that I must say first. Used to be free. This is the end of the transitional bridge. The beginning of the chorus is this. So almost a Fifth Symphony like. Now the very, 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 very special aspect to this is the rhythmic notation that I think is the correct one. They've got 2 additional beats between transitional bridge and chorus, which I don't know why they do it, but it makes perfect sense. If we listen to everything in production and arrangement, it's very clear that this is a build-up to this. And the melody starts on the one end of this. We're gonna separate ourselves tonight. Those hits, they are not part of the transitional bridge, because if you count it, it's but I used to be free. And then we've got da-da-da-doom. It's very, very, very confusing. The great part is that you don't get irritated by it when listening to it. So I'm very sure that they have considered doing those bap in the transitional bridge so that it makes metric sense. Now let's try how that would sound. Used to be free. We're gonna separate and so on, okay? It's perfectly legit, right? Used to be free. But it's the opposite of free. If we look at the word, I used to be free. And then we regard the 2 extra beats. This is what Henning would call proctology. What I correctly call prosody. It's a perfect link between words and music. Used to be free, and then throw in some extra beats. How cool is that? The other alternative sounds rushed and very restricted, not free. Back to the chorus, which I was actually talking about. The hits with D sharp in bass and B major as the chord. And we go to regular B major. So we've got a clear 1 chord as the first chord of the chorus. The hits repeat, but the chord we're landing on is now 6 minor. G sharp minor. The rhythm of the hits stay the same, we just change the chords. We've got F sharp, so the 5 in B major, F sharp major as the hits, so as a transitional chord in a way, landing on E major, so it's there's a black chandelier, and back up over F sharp to G minor. G sharp minor, sorry. It's casting shadows and lights. Back to E major, which then becomes the chord of the interlude, which is a shortened intro. Okay, so we've got da da ga gum drip 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 drip, which is shorter than in the intro. Verse 2 is basically the same thing as verse number 1, with tiny twists that we are going to look at if we look at the lyrics, because the tiny twists result from the lyrics, I believe. And here we see that you have to be open for creative freedom in second verses if you want to deliver amazing lyrics that kind of make sense in verse number 2. Transitional bridge number 2 is the same thing as transitional bridge number 1. Chorus number 2 is double. The way to go from chorus half number 1 to chorus half number 2 is you land on it's casting shadows and lights. Just repeat, right? So we've got it's casting shadows and lights. We're gonna separate ourselves tonight. Chords stay exactly the same, melody changes. With melody we had in the first half of the chorus, we're gonna separate ourselves tonight. We're riding on this C sharp like crazy. This is the central note of the song, although the song is in B major. The variation in terms of melody in the second half of the chorus is we're gonna separate ourselves tonight. Playing it or singing it one note above the original melody, and therefore making it even more adaptable to the chorus, because for the first time we play a note that's actually in the chord as well. We're gonna separate ourselves tonight. And another interesting thing for the second half of the chorus is the way that we leave the chorus and move to the instrumental section in the middle, which of course I can only emulate very poorly here on the piano. So we have got there's a black chandelier. Remember that this was the third chord, so we have not played the chorus until the end. But there's a black chandelier. This is a Dave Grohl Foo Fighters chord thrown in there. It's C sharp major. So we are changing the modes, or we are borrowing a chord from another mode. It's the second stage, not in minor, but in major. You could argue that it's the secondary dominant for the 5, but it's not, because it doesn't dominate anywhere. It's the 2 in Lydian! I knew that he wouldn't be able to shut his face. He couldn't be able to shut it. It's 2 major, which we could borrow from the Lydian mode of B major. My new power is I'm also the editor of this thing, so I'm going to kind of dress this up as my own idea. The Foo Fighters chord. Let's just call it like this. I don't know if the Foo Fighters write Lydian songs or if they just throw in this 2 major all the time. It's just something that we know from them. There's a black chandelier. This is what Dave Grohl does when he writes songs, right? And Biffy Clyro like them a lot. Simon Neil is a great musician. I'm not sure how aware he is of all the stuff that I'm nerding out about. I think he's playing the Dave Grohl chord and not paying it too much thought and attention. I always play it wrong because I play this 4 times, as the instinct would tell you. But it's played 5 times, and there's a good reason for it. Because, remember, I played the 3rd chord of the chorus before moving to this C sharp major. The first gung 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 is in the bars of the chorus. Therefore, is part of the chorus, is playing the chorus to the end. And then we've got 4 forms after that to kind of add a certain symmetry to it, which doesn't exist. Let's be honest. And it's, again, no melody, no voice, of course, no melody instrument whatsoever. It's just harmonic, cool rhythm. Dun dun gang 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 gang. Couple of eighths, couple of 16th notes. We're going to look at the notation. It's nothing from another planet, but it's pretty amazing, and especially with those Biffy Clyro typical guitars that are throwing you off. Very impressive. And then something that I like to do for my own songs, breaking this whole shit down and having a very, very, very low-key T-bridge before the last chorus. We have got a caller. Now, coming over from Hirschhausen, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce that YouTube guy, Henning Pauli.
Oh.
We're good here?
Oh, it's all good. Got nothing to say.
Come on!
Except when you talk about the guitars, that they're Strats, which is weird, played with a metal zone.
I need the buzzer. No songwriter.
Wait. Somebody might. You said the guitars?
What guitars?
In the typical massive guitars?
Oh, sorry, I said the G word.
And he's playing a Strat with single chords with a metal zone through a Marshall.
I don't know any of the words that you're just saying.
Some of those might, because I sent them over here.
Oh, I see. Now, if we were expecting a person playing any of what's that? It's just part of the decoration. I have no idea what it is. I brought my keyboard, I set it up here. Don't even know where I am. I do know that Biffy Clyro, Simon Neil, plays guitar. I shouldn't have mentioned it. I realize that right now. T-bridge, low-key, meaning it's just palm mute guitar stuff, which I cannot emulate on the keyboard either.
Like Thor's brother?
Oh, please don't. I'm unbelievably grateful for the opportunity. I have to keep this in mind. I must not be annoyed by him. I must kiss him. I must kiss his eyes. I must kiss his ass. This is something great that he does for me. He talks a lot of nonsense, doesn't he? T-bridge. Low key. See, I'm playing low. High key, low. I left my heart like an abandoned car. Oh, older worn and no use at all. But I used to be free. This is what I wanted to say. Low-key transitional bridge. The surprising element of this transitional bridge is, of course, that it ends on the highest melody note in the whole song. But I used to be free. F sharp, I think. F sharp. Used to be free. It's not really show-off vocal-wise, but it's impressive if Simon Neil does it. Last chorus, basically the same thing as chorus number 2, what with the 2 halves and so on and so forth. And ending on... But there's a black chandelier, the Dave Grohl chord, 2 major, C sharp major. We're through. We're through with chords. We are through with melody. I mentioned it. I must emphasize it right now. Start of the melody. Verse number 1 or verse number 1 and 2 starting on the beat. I shouldn't laugh, but... Or I'll sit in silence for the... So on. Transitional bridge. You left my heart. Starting with the pickup. Chorus. We're gonna separate. Starting on the one end. So starting after the beat. Making all 3 sections having different starts of the melody, which seems to be a thing in pop and rock music. Talking about variation between different sections of the song. I left lyrics for last, not because I think they are the best part of the song, but because there are a couple of things we want to look at. Let's look at verse 1 first. I should have laughed, but I know I'm a failure in your eyes. What I find odd about it is the stress on the I at the beginning. I should have laughed, but I know I'm a failure in your eye. This is not the way you would say the sentence in conversational language, is it? Second line, I know it's daft, but I guess I know it deep inside. Same thing. I is again the first word and gets a lot of stress, a lot of attention, and it doesn't say anything. Now the third line is actually the cringiest. It feels like we're ready to crack these days, you and I. This is a lot of attention for an it. It feels like we're ready. It's not, it feels like we're ready, or feeling like we're ready. Could have been an easy fix. Stress on the it. Ugh, this is nerdy stuff. I love the song. I love the song. Love the song. Don't get me wrong, Simon. Subscribe. You're supposed to say that, right? Subscribe and leave comments and stuff. I was saving this for the end. I was actually going to... yeah. No matter if your name is Simon Neil or not, please subscribe. Because this is apparently a thing that people do on YouTube. Please also leave comments and tell me only great things. Don't leave trolley bastard comments. It feels like we're ready to crack these days, you and I. It's cool words. The stress is very odd. When it's just the two of us, only the two of us, I could die. I've no idea what verse number 1 is about. In terms of metric rhythm, we can say that it's Biffy Clyro-ish odd. Not very conventional, is it? A variation of this. Something that we've never heard before. Not very conventional, quite unique, and of course really, really cool, with some weird things in terms of word placement. Rhyme pattern. I should have laughed, but I know I'm a failure in your eyes. I know it's daft, but I guess I know it deep inside. It sounds like 4 lines, but the first 2 lines are very closely connected and basically have got no rest whatsoever between them, same as the lines 3 and 4, which is why I would argue, especially if we look at verse number 2, that it's a very lengthy line with a tiny internal rhyme between laughed and daft. Also, weird words, right? No, I'm a failure in your eyes. I know it's daft, but I guess I know it deep inside. So we've got this rhyming vowel. It's an almost rhyme because you haven't got the S at the end. It feels like we're ready to crack these days, you and I. The word I is very, very important, apparently. Rhymes with the 2 lines before. When it's just the two of us, only the two of us, I could die. Die rhymes with I. Let's just leave it like that. And we've got a repetition of this, it's just the two of us. No idea what the song is about. Suicide, yes, no, maybe, I have no idea. Transitional bridge, which is quite great lyrics. Because Simon invents images that haven't been used before. Leaves the cliches. You left my heart like an abandoned car. Old and worn and no use at all. But I used to be free. Now, in terms of metric rhythm and rhyming pattern, this is very loose. Nothing really fits. You left my heart like an abandoned car, okay. Tiny rhyme. Old and worn and no use at all. We have got the use used in another context then, but I used to be free. Very, very unconventional, very impressive. And probably something that you need for the transitional bridge in order to build up a certain kind of tension before the chorus. Talking about the chorus. The chorus is, we're gonna separate ourselves tonight. I don't know if this is English. It's basically just, we're gonna separate tonight, right? But never mind, apparently he was needing additional syllables. We're gonna separate ourselves tonight. We're always running scared, but holding knives. What the crap is he talking about? Tonight and knives rhymes in a way. But there's a black chandelier. Now I know that the song is called Black Chandelier, which is probably why you would have to include this very weird thing at one point. But what? It's casting shadows of lies. Simon, please comment and tell us what the fuck. I have no idea what it is, but it's great. It's amazing. We're gonna separate ourselves tonight. We're always running scared but holding knives. But there's a black chandelier. It's casting shadows of... Sorry, I'm out. Great song though. Verse 2. I'll sit in silence for the rest of my life if you'd like. This is what Henning told me before we started shooting the video. So, I'll sit in silence for the rest of my life if you'd like. Apparently, somebody was complaining about Simon talking too much. He says, well, okay, I'll sit in silence for the rest of my life if you like. Dressing our wounds with industrial gloves made of wire. Now, it's a very strong image. It's kind of a too strong of an image if we talk about the music in general. This is something that Biffy Clyro does. In terms of music and composition, it's pop rock music. Arrangement is, of course, very fat. Lyrics, they hit you in the face for no reason at all. Dressing our wounds with industrial gloves made of wire. This is very industrial metal stuff. Feeling penetrating the skin, we begin to relax when it's just the two of us and a cute little cup of cyanide. Yes, it's a booster line. It's a surprising element in the second verse.
It's a what?
But what the fuck? It's a booster line! Booster line! You know what a booster line is?
I know what a booster line is. They don't know what a booster line is.
You know what a booster line is? It's a very, very prominent line in verse number 2 that you can use to kind of take away attention from the fact that you have used a little bit of creative freedom in the metric rhythm. So whenever you've got a very cool line in your second verse, it's basically okay to kind of throw metric rhythm and melody out of the window, which is what Simon Neil does not do. I'll sit in silence for the rest of my life if you'd like. Remember? I should have laughed, but I know I'm a failure in your eyes. I'll sit in silence for the rest of my life if you'd like. It's a bit different to make it okay with the words, which is a great strategy. Dressing our wounds with industrial gloves made of wire. And in fact, the words and the pronunciation in verse number 2 are far more powerful than in verse number 1. Suddenly there is the stress on the correct words and we paint amazing images. Feeling penetrating the skin, we begin to relax. Nice internal rhyme with skin and begin.
Penetrated?
Feeling penetrating the skin.
It's penetrating.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Unless, of course, it's this complicated thing that you can pronounce differently depending on the region. You have to buy the course. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There's so much to cover and we can't just give away everything. Maybe it's a complicated word.
Complicated. Frustrated.
Frustrated.
Or frustrated.
Feeling maybe it's penetrating. Maybe it's penetrating and not penetrating. I don't know. Well, it's just the two of us and a cute little cup of cyanide. Apparently it's about suicide.
Cyanide or cyanide?
Cyanide for the sake of the song. Still, it's a very powerful resolution in the second verse, which is why I forgive everything. And again, this abandoned car thing and chorus number 2, which is the same thing. No words in this section. And then transitional bridge and chorus. It's not a set of lyrics that blow you away, but in the context of the song, and because it's Simon Neil and I forgive him everything, it makes for an amazing piece of genius art. I think we have talked song quite a bit. If you liked this, please do subscribe. Please let me know what you thought of it. Please let me know if that guy is supposed to be here all the time. Send me suggestions for songs that you want me to dissect. And please stay tuned and be very, very watchful. Is that a word? Watchful when it comes to the release of our almost but not quite complete guide to songwriting coming out in 2023. When I say our, I mean Henning and me. You have no idea who I am, right? Should have said that at the beginning of the lesson. It's too late now, isn't it? Probably, because I have to practice editing, I will put my name here. Maybe I will put it at the beginning of the video so that I don't have to say it. Or maybe I put in something like he was very nervous, which is why he forgot to say it. I think we've talked song. You can talk about the weather again. We're gonna separate ourselves tonight.
We're always running scared but holding knives. But there's a black chandelier. It's casting